The wind screamed across the frozen land, carrying sharp blades of ice that cut against the skin. Snow rolled in endless waves, covering every hill, every rock, every path. On this planet, winter never ended. It was a world of silence, broken only by the roar of the storm. A single man pushed through the white wilderness. His heavy coat was frozen stiff, his boots sank deep into the snow, and his breath came out in clouds that turned to frost on his beard. His name was Daniel, a human explorer far from home. He had traveled to many strange worlds, but this one was crueler than most. Daniel had been walking for hours, searching for shelter before the storm grew worse. His hands were numb, his legs heavy, but he forced himself to move. To stop was to die. And then, through the swirling snow, he saw something strange. At first he thought it was just another drift of ice, but as he drew closer he saw shapes inside the snow, shapes that did not belong there. Two figures, buried up to their shoulders, their bodies trembling weakly. Daniel stopped, his heart pounding. Were they human? No. As the wind pulled at the snow, he caught glimpses of pale blue skin, faintly glowing like moonlight. Their faces were delicate, with long silver hair frozen against their cheeks. Their eyes, half open, glimmered with fear and pain. They were not human. They were alien. He stood frozen for a moment. Every explorer knew the danger of helping strangers on unknown worlds. These creatures could be hostile, or cursed, or marked for death by their own people. But then one of them lifted a trembling hand, fingers thin and shaking, reaching toward him with the last of her strength. Her lips moved, broken by the cold. A voice, soft but desperate, slipped out. "Please, help us." Daniel felt something inside him tighten. They were not soldiers, not hunters, not enemies. They were just two lives, caught in the storm. His choice was clear. He dropped to his knees and began to dig. Snow burned his fingers, but he clawed it away, pulling the first sister free. She was light. Far too light, as if the storm had already stolen half her strength. He wrapped her in his coat and laid her gently aside, then dug for the second. The second sister's eyes opened as he freed her, glowing faintly with a strange silver light. She looked at him with disbelief, as if she could not understand why a stranger would risk his life for hers. Daniel lifted them both, one under each arm, and staggered through the storm. His cabin was not far, a small shelter built from the wreck of his landing craft. Step by step, he pushed forward, the weight of the two sisters heavy against him. The storm roared louder, as if angry he had stolen its prey. Ice cut his face, snow blinded him, but he pressed on. He could not let them die. At last, through the white wall of the storm, he saw the dark outline of his cabin. The door was nearly buried, but he kicked it open and stumbled inside, dragging the sisters with him. Warmth rushed to meet them, the heat of the fire he had left burning, the thick air of safety. Daniel laid the sisters on the floor near the fire, brushing snow from their bodies. They coughed, gasped, their lips trembling as life slowly returned. He gave them water, wrapped them in blankets, and watched as the color returned to their strange blue skin. For a long time they said nothing. They only stared at him, their silver eyes glowing in the firelight. Then the first sister spoke, her voice weak but clear. "You saved us." Daniel nodded, still catching his breath. "You would have frozen out there." The second sister's lips curved into the faintest smile. She whispered something in her own language, then looked at him with a strange softness. "Husband." Daniel blinked, unsure if he had heard right. "What did you say?" The first sister, trembling but determined, reached out her hand. Her fingers brushed his, and a spark of warmth passed between them. She looked into his eyes and repeated the word, slower this time, as if it carried deep meaning. "Husband." Daniel pulled back, confused. He had expected fear, or gratitude, or silence, but not this. Not a word that bound them together in a way he did not understand. The sisters exchanged a glance, then both leaned closer to the fire. Their voices were soft, almost in unison, as if sharing the same thought. "We belong to you now." The storm outside howled against the walls, but inside the cabin a different silence fell. Thick, heavy, filled with mystery. Daniel stared at the two alien sisters, unsure if he had just saved their lives, or stepped into something far greater and far more dangerous than he could imagine. And as the fire cracked and the storm raged, he realized one thing: his life would never be the same again. The cabin was small, built from pieces of his broken ship, but to Daniel it was home. Wooden walls groaned against the weight of the storm outside. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the dim air, painting the room in orange light. The only sound was the hiss of wind pressing against the shutters. Daniel knelt beside the two sisters, checking their breathing. Their skin, once cold as ice, was slowly warming under the blankets. Their silver eyes reflected the flames, alive again after almost being lost to the snow. He poured hot water into a cup and held it to the lips of the first sister. She sipped carefully, her hands trembling as she tried to hold the cup. Her long hair was wet and heavy, sticking to her face. When she spoke, her voice was soft but sure. "You saved us. You are our husband." Daniel frowned, confused. "I think you're mistaken. I don't even know your names." The second sister, who had been silent until now, turned her glowing eyes toward him. She was weaker, her breaths shallow, but her words were clear. "My name is Lyra. This is my sister Celine, and you are bound to us now." Daniel blinked. "Bound? What do you mean bound?" Lyra's lips curved into a faint smile. "Among our people, life is a thread. When someone saves us from death, their thread becomes tied to ours. You pulled us from the snow. You gave us breath again. That makes you our husband." Daniel shook his head. "That's not how it works for humans. Where I come from, we don't." Celine reached out suddenly and touched his hand. A spark of warmth shot through his body, stronger than fire, stronger than anything he had felt before. He gasped, pulling his hand back, but the warmth remained inside him, humming like a quiet drum. What was that?" he whispered. "Our bond," Celine said. Her eyes glowed brighter. "It is real. You feel it now, don't you?" Daniel opened his mouth to argue, but the truth was clear. Something had changed the moment their skin touched. His heart beat faster, his body alive with strange energy. It was both frightening and strangely comforting. He stood and walked to the window, staring into the storm, his mind spun with questions. Who were they? Why had they been out there alone? And what did this bond mean for him? He had not chosen it, yet it seemed the choice was no longer his to make. Behind him, the sisters whispered in their own language, their voices rising and falling like a song. Daniel turned to watch them. Lyra leaned against Celine, her face pale but calm. They looked fragile, yet there was a strength in their eyes, something unbroken even after nearly dying in the snow. "You shouldn't talk so much," Daniel said at last. "You need rest. The storm won't end tonight. You're safe here, for now." Lyra looked at him, her silver eyes soft. "Safe, because you are with us." Daniel sighed, unsure how to answer. He set a pot of stew on the fire, the smell of warm food filling the cabin. He had lived alone for so long that he had almost forgotten what it was like to share a meal with anyone. When the food was ready, he handed them bowls. They ate slowly, carefully, as if each bite was a treasure. Watching them, Daniel felt a strange mix of emotions. He had only met them hours ago, yet already they spoke as if he were part of their lives. As the fire burned low, Celine looked up at him. "You wonder why we were in the snow?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. People don't just wander into storms like that." Her face darkened. "We were running. We are hunted. If they find us..." She trailed off, her hand tightening around the blanket. Lyra finished the sentence for her. "If they find us, they will kill us, and you too." Daniel froze. "Who is hunting you?" Neither sister answered right away. Their silence was heavier than the storm outside. Finally, Celine whispered, "The ones who own us, the ones we escaped." The fire popped, a spark flying into the air. Daniel stared at them, his stomach tight. Slavery. He had heard of it on distant worlds, but seeing its victims here in his cabin made it real. "You're saying someone will come looking for you," Daniel said quietly. Lyra nodded. "Yes, and they will not stop." The cabin felt smaller now, the shadows deeper. The storm outside seemed less dangerous than the storm that might soon come to his door. Daniel leaned back, running a hand through his hair. He had wanted only to survive on this frozen world, to wait for rescue. But now, with these sisters in his home, everything had changed. Celine shifted closer, her silver eyes never leaving his. "Husband," she said again, softly, like a promise. "You saved us once. You must save us again." Daniel felt the weight of her words settle on him. He had no idea what kind of danger was coming, or if he could even fight it. But as he looked at the two sisters, alive because of him, he knew he could not turn them away. The storm outside roared, but inside the cabin another storm had begun, one that would change his life forever. The storm raged through the night, but inside the cabin, the fire kept its steady glow. Daniel had not slept. He sat in the corner, his back against the wall, watching the two alien sisters. They slept close to the fire, wrapped in blankets, their silver hair spread across the floor like rivers of light. Even in sleep, their skin carried that faint, moon-like glow. Sometimes they whispered in their own tongue, voices soft as falling snow. Daniel's eyes felt heavy, but his mind refused to rest. The word they had used, husband, echoed again and again. He had not chosen it, and yet it clung to him like a shadow. At dawn, when the storm softened, Celine stirred. Her silver eyes opened slowly, fixing on him. She sat up, her voice low. "You did not sleep." Daniel shook his head. "I couldn't. Too many questions." Celine tilted her head. "Ask, then." He leaned forward. "This bond you talk about, what is it really? Why do you call me husband?" Lyra woke at his words. She pushed herself up, weaker than her sister but just as determined. She spoke before Celine could answer. "It is not just a word, it is a law of our kind. When death takes us and another hand pulls us back, our lives no longer belong to ourselves. They belong to the one who saved us. The bond ties us together, body, spirit, and soul." Daniel frowned. "That sounds like slavery. I don't want slaves." Celine's eyes sharpened. "Not slaves, partners. You are tied to us, as we are tied to you. If you fall, we feel it. If you are hurt, we bleed inside. If you live, we live." As she spoke, she reached out again, her hand brushing his. The same warmth flared through him, stronger than before. His chest tightened, his pulse quickened, and he felt a strange pull deep inside, like an invisible thread connecting their hearts. He pulled back quickly, shaken. This isn't normal. Humans don't work like this." Lyra's voice was gentle. "It does not matter. The bond is already made. You cannot break it." Daniel stood and paced across the small cabin, frustration boiling inside him. He had wanted to live quietly, survive until rescue came. Now, in a single night, he was tied to two alien sisters with glowing eyes and ancient customs he did not understand. He stopped at the window, staring at the endless snow. "And what happens if I don't accept this bond? What if I say no?" Silence filled the cabin. Then Celine spoke, her voice calm but heavy. "Then we die." Daniel spun to face her. "Die? Just like that?" Lyra nodded. "The bond cannot exist only one way. If you push us away, if you deny what has been written, the thread snaps. And when it snaps, so do we." Daniel's mouth went dry. He had not asked for this, yet now their lives rested on his choices. He sat back down slowly. "So I'm trapped." Celine shook her head. "Not trapped, chosen. The storm chose you. Fate chose you." Daniel laughed bitterly. Fate has a cruel sense of humor. For a long time, none of them spoke. The fire cracked, the storm whispered outside, and the weight of the bond settled over the cabin like an invisible chain. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. "You wonder why we ran. You must know, or you cannot protect us." Daniel looked at her sharply. "Protect you? From who?" Her silver eyes darkened. "From the ones who hunt us. From the master who owned us." Celine's voice dropped to a whisper. "He will not forgive our escape. He will come. And when he comes, he will destroy anyone who stands with us. Even you." Daniel's chest tightened. "Then why drag me into this? Why not let me walk away?" Lyra's voice trembled, but her words were steady. "Because we had no choice. And now, neither do you." Daniel rubbed his temples. His mind raced with doubts and fear. Yet beneath it all, the bond burned inside him, a steady warmth that would not fade. He had felt alone for so long, wandering across old worlds, living only to survive. Now, for the first time, he was needed, truly needed. He hated that it stirred something inside him. Suddenly, a sound broke the moment. A sharp crack outside the cabin like footsteps on frozen wood. Daniel froze. The sisters' eyes widened, glowing brighter in fear. Another sound, closer this time. Someone, or something, was moving through the snow toward them. Celine's hand clutched his arm. "They found us." Daniel grabbed his old rifle from the wall, his hands shaking but ready. He had faced storms, hunger, and loneliness. But this was different. This was war walking to his door. The fire flickered as shadows passed outside the window. Heavy steps circled the cabin. Low voices spoke in a harsh, guttural tongue. Lyra whispered, her face pale. "Hunters. He has sent hunters." Daniel's heart pounded. He looked at the sisters, then at the door, where the shadows grew darker. The bond inside him pulsed like fire. He realized the truth. His quiet life was gone. Whether he wanted it or not, their fight had become his. And as the door creaked under the weight of a heavy hand outside, Daniel whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning. The cabin walls shook as the wind carried heavy footsteps across the frozen ground. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Whoever was outside was not lost in the storm. They moved with purpose, circling, searching. Lyra pressed close to her sister, fear flickering in her silver eyes. Celine's hand gripped Daniel's sleeve tightly. "They've come," she whispered. "The hunters. He has sent them." Daniel held his old rifle tighter. The weapon was scarred and rusty, barely strong enough to hunt animals, but it was all he had. He moved slowly to the window, lifting the edge of the curtain with 2 fingers. Through the frost, he saw dark figures moving in the snow. They were tall, wrapped in black armor that glistened under the weak light of the storm. Strange masks covered their faces, tubes breathing vapor into the air. Their steps were heavy, sinking deep into the snow, yet they moved like predators, silent, patient. There were 3 of them. One stopped at the door, pressing a hand against the wood. The others circled the cabin, their weapons glowing faintly blue in the storm. Daniel pulled back quickly, his pulse hammered in his ears. "They're armed," he muttered. Celine's voice was urgent. "They will not leave without us. If they take us back, we will never escape again." Lyra's voice was softer but sharper. "And if they find you with us, they will kill you. No mercy." The door shook suddenly under a heavy blow. Dust fell from the ceiling. The hunters outside barked words in their guttural language, commands, orders. Daniel's stomach tightened. He had faced storms, hunger, loneliness, but never this, never enemies at his door. The sisters looked at him with desperate eyes. Celine whispered, "Husband, what will you do?" Daniel swallowed hard. The word cut deeper now. Husband. He had not chosen this bond, but here it was, binding him to them. If he handed them over, maybe the hunters would let him live. Maybe. But could he really do that? Leave them to chains? The door shook again. A crack split the wood. The hunters outside growled, impatient. Daniel raised the rifle and pointed it at the door. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "Stay behind me." The sisters obeyed, pressing against the far wall, eyes wide with fear but filled with trust. The door crashed open. Snow blasted into the cabin, and the first hunter stepped inside. His armor gleamed, his weapon raised, a glowing blade humming in the dim light. Behind him, another figure appeared, taller, heavier. Daniel fired. The rifle boomed, smoke filling the cabin. The shot struck the first hunter in the chest, knocking him back into the snow. But the armor held. He roared in anger and charged forward. Daniel grabbed a chair and swooped, shattering it across the hunter's mask. Sparks flew. The alien stumbled, then struck back, his glowing blade slicing through the table as Daniel ducked. Lyra cried out, clutching her sister. Silver light flickered in their eyes. Energy sparked faintly around their hands, but they were too weak to use it. The second hunter entered, aiming his weapon. A blast of blue energy seared past Daniel, burning the wall where his head had been a second earlier. Daniel dove behind the firewood stack, heart pounding, rifle empty. He searched for anything, a tool, a weapon. His hands closed around a metal rod, half broken but sharp at the end. The hunters moved deeper into the cabin, filling it with shadows. Their voices growled, their eyes glowing behind their masks. One pointed at the sisters and barked a word. The meaning was clear. "Seize them!" Lyra's voice rang out, desperate. "Daniel, do not let them take us!" Daniel gripped the rod tighter. He thought of the bond, of the spark he had felt, of their promise that if he rejected them, they would die. He thought of their eyes, glowing in the firelight, full of fear and trust. He rose with a shout and drove the rod forward. It struck the first hunter's mask, piercing through with a shower of sparks. The alien screamed, collapsing to the ground. The second hunter roared in fury, swinging his blade. Daniel barely blocked it with the rod, the impact shaking his arms. The blade's heat seared the metal, nearly cutting it in two. The third hunter burst through the back window, glass shattering, snow spraying. Now there were three again, surrounding him. Daniel's chest heaved. He could not win, not alone. Then Celine's voice filled the cabin, sharp and commanding. "Daniel, take our hands." He turned. The sisters were standing, weak but burning with light. Their silver eyes glowed brighter, their skin alive with strange energy. They stretched out their hands toward him. Daniel hesitated only a second, then he dropped the rod and seized their hands. A surge of power exploded through him. His body lit with silver fire, his heart beating like thunder. Strength flooded his muscles, speed sharpened his vision. He could see every breath of the hunters, every flicker of their glowing weapons. The hunters stepped back in shock. For the first time, they looked uncertain. Daniel tightened his grip on the sisters' hands. His voice was steady now, burning with the same fire inside him. "If you want them, you'll have to go through me." The cabin blazed with light as the hunters roared and charged. And the battle truly began. The cabin was fire and chaos. Sparks leapt from shattered walls, smoke curled through the air, and the storm outside screamed through broken windows. Daniel moved with strength that was not his own, every muscle burning with silver fire. The hunters struck fast, their glowing blades cutting through wood and stone like paper. But Daniel was faster now. He blocked, dodged, struck back. His hands carried power. His eyes saw every motion in sharp detail. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. Celine and Lyra stood behind him, their hands raised, silver light flowing from their bodies into his. Their bond kept him alive, kept him strong, but it drained them. Their skin paled, their voices cracked as they whispered words of focus. Daniel slammed one hunter against the wall, his fist breaking the mask. Sparks flew, and the alien collapsed. But the other two pressed harder, their attacks fierce. His body ached, his breath heavy. The power was great, but it was not endless. Lyra cried out, "Daniel, we must go! Now!" The words broke through his fury. He turned, grabbing the sisters' hands. Together they pushed through the broken door, into the storm outside. Snow blinded them, wind howled, but Daniel didn't stop. His legs carried them faster than before, boots crunching deep into the ice. Behind them, the hunters roared, their heavy steps crashing through the snow closer and closer. "Where?" Daniel shouted over the storm. Celine pointed to the east, her silver hair whipping in the wind. "The forest! We can lose them there!" Daniel pushed forward, every breath sharp and cold. The sisters stumbled, weak from pouring their strength into him, but he pulled them along. His body screamed with exhaustion, but the bond urged him on. The hunters fired. Bolts of blue energy seared past, burning the snow where they fell. One blast struck a rock ahead, shattering it into shards. Daniel shielded the sisters with his body, the heat biting at his back. "Faster!" Lyra gasped. The forest appeared at last, dark shapes rising from the endless white. Tall black trees, twisted and bare, their branches like claws reaching for the sky. Daniel dragged the sisters into the shadows. The snow muffled their steps, branches creaked in the storm, but still the hunters followed. Deeper and deeper they ran, until Daniel's chest burned. He pulled the sisters behind a thick trunk, forcing himself to breathe silently. The forest was a maze of dark shapes and white snow. The hunters entered soon after, their glowing weapons cutting through the dark. Their masks hissed, their eyes scanning. They moved slowly now, cautious, like wolves sniffing for prey. Daniel crouched low, holding the sisters close. His breath fogged the air, but he dared not move. The sisters' trembling hands clutched his arms. One hunter stopped near their hiding place. His weapon hummed softly as he scanned the trees. His head turned, closer, closer, until his mask almost faced them. Daniel's grip tightened. His muscles screamed to fight, but the sisters shook their heads. Not yet. The hunter's mask flickered. He turned away, stepping deeper into the forest. Daniel let out a slow, quiet breath. For a moment, they stayed, still, hidden in the shadows. Then Celine whispered, "This forest is not safe. There are things here worse than hunters." Daniel frowned. "Worse." Lyra nodded. "The trees are old. They remember blood. They do not welcome strangers." As if to prove her words, a low sound drifted through the woods. Not wind, not storm. A growl, long, deep, rising from the shadows. Daniel turned his head slowly. Between the trees, silver eyes glowed, dozens of them. Shapes moved in the dark, massive and low, their breath steaming in the cold air. Creatures, hunters of the forest. The sisters pressed close to him, their voices trembling. "We must move, now." Daniel's heart pounded. Between them and freedom stood alien hunters. Behind them waited the beasts of the forest. The storm roared above and the snow deepened around their feet. For a moment he thought there was no way out. Then he felt the bond stir again, a warm pulse inside him. The sisters' silver glow flickered, weak but still alive. They were giving him strength even as fear consumed them. Daniel rose to his feet, pulling them with him. His voice was firm. "We keep moving. No matter what's in this forest, it's better than chains." The sisters nodded, fear mixing with trust. Together, they slipped deeper into the wilds. Behind them, the hunters stalked the shadows. Around them, beasts followed with glowing eyes. Ahead, the forest thickened, a black wall of unknown danger. The storm swallowed their tracks, and Daniel knew the real hunt had only just begun. The forest was alive with danger. The storm howled through the branches, making them creak like old bones. Snow fell in thick sheets, burying tracks almost as soon as they were made. Yet still, the hunters moved closer. Their glowing weapons lit the trees with cold blue light, their heavy steps crunching through the frozen ground. But they were not the only threat. All around, in the shadows of the trees, pairs of glowing silver eyes watched. Low growls rolled through the darkness, the sound of creatures farkling, waiting for weakness. Daniel held the sisters close, his chest burning as he pulled them deeper into the wilds. Lyra's voice was faint in his ear. They follow, both of them, the hunters, and the forest. Celine stumbled, nearly falling. Daniel caught her, lifting her into his arms. She felt weightless, her strength nearly gone, yet her silver eyes burned with determination. "Do not stop," she whispered. "If you stop, we all die." The forest growled again. Shadows moved between the trees. Daniel tightened his grip on his old metal rod, but he knew it was nothing against beasts or armored hunters. Then it happened. A howl split the storm. A massive creature burst from the shadows, its body black as midnight, its teeth long and sharp. Its claws tore through the snow as it lunged straight at them. Daniel turned, shoving Lyra aside and raising the rod. The beast struck, knocking him to the ground. Its weight crushed his chest, its breath hot and foul on his face. "Daniel!" the sisters cried. The beast snapped its jaws inches from his throat. Daniel fought, his arms straining, but the creature was too strong. Its claws cut into his shoulder, pain burning through him. Then Celine screamed a word in her own language. Lyra pressed her hands together, silver lights sparking between her palms. The bond flared. Daniel felt it surge inside him, a river of fire bursting through his veins. His muscles roared with strength, his vision sharpened until every snowflake was clear. The beast's growl slowed as if time itself bent around him. He pushed upward with both arms. The strength was not his own, yet it was inside him all the same. The beast howled as he threw it off, sending it crashing into a tree. The trunk snapped, snow falling like a white wave. Daniel rose, his body glowing faintly with silver light. The bond hummed with power, Celine and Lyra's energy flowing into him. He felt unstoppable, alive in a way he had never known. The beast leapt again. This time Daniel caught it mid-air, twisting its body and slamming it to the ground. The snow shook under the impact. The creature writhed, but Daniel's glowing hands gripped its throat, holding it down. One sharp strike, and it lay still. Silence fell for a heartbeat. Then more growls rose in the distance. The forest was waking. Celine and Lyra's faces were pale, their bodies trembling as they fed him their strength. Yet their eyes shone with pride. "You see now," Celine whispered. "The bond is your weapon." Before Daniel could answer, a blast of blue light tore through the trees. Snow exploded beside him, scattering in a white cloud. The hunters had arrived. Their weapons hummed, their masks glowing red with rage. They had seen what he did, and they would not allow it again. Daniel turned to the sisters. "Run!" But Lyra shook her head. "Not without you." The hunters spread out, moving through the forest like shadows. One raised his weapon, aiming for the sisters. Daniel moved faster than thought. In an instant he was there, his glowing hands smashing the weapon aside. Sparks flew as the rifle cracked. Daniel struck again, his fist slamming into the hunter's chest, sending him flying into the trees. The other two roared, charging together. Their blades cut the air, bright and deadly. Daniel blocked with his rod, the metal glowing silver from the bond's power. Sparks danced as blade met steel. He pushed back, his body alive with energy. Every strike shook the forest, every blow burned with light. For the first time the hunters faltered. They were strong, but he was stronger now. Yet the bond had a cost. His heart pounded, his vision blurred at the edges. He felt the sisters weakening behind him, their energy pouring into him like water from a broken vessel. Lyra collapsed to her knees, coughing, her glow flickering. Celine swayed, blood on her lips. Daniel gritted his teeth. He could not let them burn themselves out, not for him. He roared, striking with all his strength. His glowing rod pierced through one hunter's armor, shattering the chest plate. The alien screamed and fell, but the last hunter was fast. His blade slashed across Daniel's side, heat searing his flesh. Pain ripped through him, and his glow dimmed. Daniel staggered, the bond flickering. The sisters cried out, silver light flaring again as they forced more of themselves into him. The last hunter raised his blade for the killing strike, and Daniel caught it. His hand, glowing with pure silver fire, stopped the blade mid-swing. Sparks flew as he held it still. His eyes burned like stars. With a final shout, he broke the blade in two and struck the hunter down. The alien fell into the snow, unmoving. The forest grew silent again, the beasts fading into the shadows. Only the storm remained, howling above. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping. The silver glow faded, leaving only pain and exhaustion. The sisters rushed to him, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. Lyra touched his cheek, whispering weakly, "Husband, you carry our strength, but you must not carry it alone." Celine nodded, her eyes heavy. "If you take too much, the bond will burn us all." Daniel looked at them both, his breath ragged. He wanted to speak, but words failed him. All he knew was this: the bond had saved them, but it had nearly destroyed them too. And somewhere, far beyond the storm, the master who sent the hunters would soon learn that his prey was still alive. The forest lay quiet after the battle. The snow was red in places, broken branches scattered across the ground. The storm still raged above, but the silence under the trees was heavy, almost sacred. Daniel knelt in the snow, his chest heaving, his body torn with pain. His side burned where the hunter's blade had cut him, and his hands still shook from the power that had surged through them. The glow was gone now. Only exhaustion remained. Celine and Lyra crouched beside him, their silver hair tangled, their eyes dim. They had given him everything. Too much. Their bodies trembled as they tried to keep him upright. "Daniel." Lyra's voice was faint but steady. "You should not have taken so much. The bond is strong, but it is not endless." Celine pressed a hand to his wound, her fingers glowing faintly. "We can heal you, a little, but we must rest soon, or we will fade." Daniel tried to smile, though his lips were cracked with cold. "You keep calling me husband. I don't feel much like one. I nearly got us all killed." Celine shook her head. "No, you stood against them. Alone, we would already be back in chains. With you, we are free, at least for tonight." Daniel looked at them, snow falling on their pale faces. Something stirred in his chest, something deeper than the bond, something human. He had lived alone for so long, surviving but never living. Now, for the first time, two lives depended on him, trusted him, chose him. He rose slowly, leaning on them both. His voice was firm despite his weakness. "Then let's not waste tonight. We need shelter before the storm buries us." The sisters nodded. Together they limped through the forest, leaving the bodies of hunters behind. The beasts watched from the shadows but did not follow. Perhaps they sensed the silver fire still lingering in Daniel's blood. At last, they found a hollow between the roots of a giant tree, shielded from the wind. Daniel built a small fire with trembling hands while the sisters lay close together, whispering softly in their own tongue. When the fire finally caught, Daniel sat back, staring at the flames. His thoughts were heavy. The hunters had been strong, but not unstoppable, which meant the true danger was still to come. As if reading his mind, Lyra spoke. Her voice was quiet, almost lost in the crackle of the fire. "He will know, our master. He will feel the hunters fall, and he will come himself." Neil's jaw tightened. "Then we'll be ready." Celine looked at him with tired eyes. "You don't understand. He is no ordinary master. He commands whole armies. Worlds bow to him. If he wants us, he will burn this forest to ash. He will burn you too." Daniel was silent for a moment, the firelight flickering across his face. Finally he spoke, his voice calm but strong. "Then let him come. I'm done running. If fate tied me to you, then I'll fight with you, whatever it takes." The sisters stared at him, their silver eyes shimmering with something between fear and hope. Slowly, Lyra reached out and placed her hand over his. Celine followed, their three hands joined in the glow of the fire. "You speak like one of us now," Celine whispered. Daniel shook his head. "No, I speak like a human, and humans don't give up." For the first time, the sisters smiled. It was faint, fragile, but real. The fire burned low, and exhaustion finally pulled them into uneasy sleep. Daniel stayed awake, staring into the flames, his mind restless. He thought of the bond, of the warmth that flowed between them, of the cost it carried. He thought of the master who hunted them, a shadow stretching across the stars. And he thought of what he had become. Not just a lone explorer anymore, not just a survivor on a frozen world. Something more. Something tied to these two alien sisters in ways he did not fully understand. When dawn broke, the storm eased. The forest lay buried under fresh snow, clean and white as if the blood of hunters had never touched it. Daniel stood at the edge of the hollow, staring into the distance. He knew this peace would not last. Already, somewhere beyond the horizon, the master would be gathering his strength. Already, new hunters might be on their way. But he also knew this: he would not face it alone. Behind him, the sisters stirred, their soft voices calling his name. They called him husband, and though the word still felt strange, it no longer felt wrong. Daniel tightened his grip on the broken metal rod. The only weapon left to him. His body ached, his future uncertain, but his resolve was clear. The storm had chosen him. Fate had tied him to two desperate souls. And when the master came, he would find not prey but a man ready to fight.